What up, guys? Back, we're gonna read more Monero stuff because it's kind of important. Maybe tomorrow I can do like a longer stream. Notify me not late today. True. For once, it's on time. I was looking at the up and coming open source printer, which is very based. Hopefully it launches soon, because I will fund it. I will throw some dollars. God, I would love an open source printer. It's such a... I'm so pissed that it's taken so long. I was listening to Revolution Is My Name by Pantera when I got the notification. I had to stop listening. I'm a Pantera unenjoyer. Cake Wallet finally fucking works. They're through Tor again. Foss Printer versus HP. Foss Printer would always win. I don't get like why these companies think that like they're so like out of touch. They think that like proprietary software just protects them. And are you a pant hater? I do actually. What is the singular? Is pants singular? What is the singular version of pants? Let's non-plural version of pants. Spaghetti. The non-plural version of pants is pants. So pant is real. However, pants is a plural only noun or pluralia tantum. In common English usage, referring to the entire article of clothing, we use the singular pant only to describe a single leg or in compound words. Singular, rarely used. Pant is used to reference one pant leg. For example, the tailor sewing a trouser leg. When referring to the whole garment, plural, pants is used. What is this? Interesting. We are also learning grammar and English. There's a company whose printers support Linux, pretty base, but I forgot the name. I'll have to ask my cousin. Oh, I'm assuming there are printers that support Linux. They just the problem is their vendor lock-in and their what do you call it? You have to use this kind of ink, or it's just cancerous. There's definitely companies that have like really bad practices. So I'm going to be using Parrot OS for like maybe a month. And then I'm going to switch to the freest open source options I have. Before we read more Monero papers, we have to discuss the real issues. So I will live the GNU approved distro for a whole 30 days. I'll probably start maybe less. Apparently, no additional software needed to be installed. It's Echo Printer, no cartridges, pour in the ink, and that's pretty based. They probably still have some policies that I don't agree with, but it's an eco printer. That's kind of cool. So we're gonna go to the GNU distros. I'm gonna make a poll for this. Everyone said either FreeBSD or GNU, or FreeBSD. or OpenBSD. And it's kind of funny, like FreeBSD technically doesn't follow as a GNU approved because they have some permissive licensing issues. So I found out Hyperbola GNU GUIX. We're gonna find out. Here we go. So it's going to be between Dragora, Linux Libre, GUIX. GUIX is like for geeks. GNU Geeks. What a weird way to spell it. A purely functional package manager for the GNU system. There's Hyperbola and then Parabola. Parabola or Trisquel. Trisquel. And then Uto. So, oh, that's disappointing. The issue is I wanted to try, but Hyperbola is going super schizoid, which is kind of based. They're actually rewriting it entirely and making it BSDs. Their final goal is gonna be Hyperbola BSD. They are gonna do an LTS, which I'm not a fan of. LTSs, I'm more of a bleeding edge rolling release fan, but this is in super beta still. This is recent, 10/20, so like 10 days ago. Hyperbola, a renewal of our rejection towards the generative algorithms, neural link networking in the project. Trisquel uses Mate based. Cringe. It's Ubuntu though. It's like Ubuntu based, or you could use GayDE as a GayDE Plasma fan. I agree. Yeah, I'm not. I just don't like Ubuntu. God, this looks like shit too. Oh, they support 32-bit ARM and 64-bit ARM. Oh, nice. That's cool. Based actually. 32-bit support gang. I would never use PureOS because Purism is an absolute shithole. I think that's the people that make it. Yeah, their phone, their Purism. It's going to be between because Hyperbola is. I would like to use Hyperbola, but it's not complete yet. So it's going to be, and I'm going to use all their software, like their approved software. Let's see, and then I don't know if I can do Dragora. When's the last time this shit's been updated? We'll just, I know they don't agree with it, but over some licensings, we'll just do OpenBSD. So either OpenBSD or one of the two. And the only thing is, like, again, the Free Software Foundation is kind of like out of touch. They're kind of insane with their like Cubes OS is not considered fully open source. I mean, kudos to them keeping their stance on their open source philosophy, but goddamn. So we're gonna pick one of these. I'm gonna run it. For like a month. Gooks is the best one then. I would have said Parabola, but Parabola is based on Arch. Gooks. Oh, Geeks. Interesting. I wonder why you came to that conclusion. Have you ever used Geeks? Parabola being based on Arch is, in my opinion, better, but oh no, did I have too many tabs open? No. Okay, we're gonna do. I think it because it's live. YouTube censored me saying Debian is trash. They're catching on to the fact that I use Linux. I'm not a furry femboy. Also, Debian could be this could be Debian censoring you because they found out that you are not a furry femboy. That only furry femboys use Arch, Nix, and Debian. That's not true. They all now use Nix OS. It's all Nix. Nix fans and femboys are intertwined now. No Arch, no need, because Nix allows it to be portable. Arch isn't as portable. Oh, we did this last time. I have to do something that I don't want to do. We're just gonna delete. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna do GitHub 0 to Monero. Gentoo is more portable than Nix. You can get down to the compiler options and use flags for Gentoo. Yeah. The argument okay. So the argument is that you go in with NixOS, it's configure hell. It's config file hell. Like some people say dependency hell for like dependency hell for like other Linux distributions like Arch or Gentoo or whatever. NixOS is dependency. Config hell. I don't care about NixOS. I've looked into it. I've read on it. People have given their argument, and I still don't fucking care. You know what I mean? Dependency hell is for Slackware. Let's be real. Where is dependency hell? Guys, this is me, the MXR chat thing, really small that I can barely see. I wonder if I can adjust that. It probably is. I just don't want it to be too big. Is it bigger now? Thanks for pointing it out, though. One second, guys. I can see it better now. You might want to make font bolder if you can. I don't know if I can do that. I'm pretty retarded. Catch 22, solving problem, platforms to be DLL hell, a form dependency occurring on 16-bit Microsoft Windows. Extension hell conflict. LOL, the Wikipedia page for dependency hell it lists Nix as it also. Jar hell form dependencies. Yeah, Java runtime environment. Oh my god, I remember RPM hell is real too. I don't see the Nix OS though. Hex chat. What was the other one that I ran into a dependency problem? This is why I like Flatpaks, to be completely honest. I never run into issues with Flatpaks. In all honesty. I never have. The biggest problem I had was with Flatpaks was in the beginning when I didn't understand permissions. Scroll down and you'll see in the also. See also. Wait, is that Gen 2? Gen 2 mentioned, guys? Catch 22, a situation where solving a problem depends on a contrary circumstance. Oh, okay. Configure management, PBI software. Oh, Nix package manager. Oh, let's see. Nix OS is a Linux distribution that uses Nix for managing the entire system configuration, including the Linux kernel. Nix uses software package managing and distribution CERN's LHCb experiment. Nix underlines the distribution software development platforms Replit and Firebase Studio. Boo! Firebase gay. I guess I have no interest in Nix, if that makes sense. I've read it and just don't care. FreeBSD is fine. I tested it a couple times. My actually favorite BSD before we get back into the Monero thing was Nomad BSD. I used to love carrying this around. It was awesome. I don't know when the last time it's been updated. Oh, 2024. I don't know if this is even still active. They haven't updated it in over a year now. Which is kind of sad because it was very cool. It was on a flash drive. Very BSD based. It says it's active, but I don't know. Let's see. Newbie OS, Nebisoft has announced the release of Nebi OS. Nebi OS is the final release of RC4 in delivering a more stable Nebi DE Wayland environment, simplified OOBE, and the migration to Kisak Mesa stable drivers. This version represents okay. What is this? What the fuck is even in this? Oh, it's based on Ubuntu? Gross. It already lost me. What's the number one? Cashy? Cashy OS is now Honeypot. MX Linux ass. I've never met or used MX Linux, to be honest. Debian, guys. Debian's in it. Debian is rising, guys. It needs to be eradicated. As a Debian hater, I couldn't get for some reason, and I don't know for the life of it, Tiny Core to work. I transferred, I copied it, made sure it was bootable, and I can't get it to work because I wanted to check it out because it's kind of cool. Never mind, guys. I'm doing Slackware. MX is awesome for old laptops and old people. I'm an ageist person. The official release of... Guys. It's Slackware. We need to all embrace and live in Slackware. It's, I think, on its 4th update in the last 20 years. Remember, you got to pick your Linux distro based on their cool wallpapers, their default wallpapers, and if they have BTOP or HTOP involved, they are based. I would like to run Haiku unironically and tell people, but I don't know if I could come to the conclusion that it's even good. I used it in a virtual machine one time and I liked it, and that was about it. NoBrush sucks. Hated it. Used it. Not a fan. Distro Wars is going downhill. FreeBSD based. Tuxedo. Never used it. Blue Star. Isn't that the... Which is the one... There was a racist one. It was a white supremacist one. It's kind of weird. Guys, never mind. I need to do Alpine. Fedora is too high RAM usage. I just hate Fedora for my own reasons. I don't have a good sound reason why I hate Fedora. I just hate Fedora. But when I was using CubesOS, I did not like using Debian because I hate Debian more. I'm just a Debian hater, and I hate Debian, and I have Pero as on my system, and I hate that it's Debian. They should make Pero at OS, but in Arch. And I know white supremacy is actually Phil. That's funny. Someone needs to make that, but they need to make it with Gen 2 or something. Guys, he didn't say white power. He said, what a lovely day you're having. That was a misinterpretation. Monero dressing. All right, beautiful, beautiful. We're on, I think, chapter 6, yeah. Avoid double spending. Chapter 6, Monero. Ring. Okay, here we go. I think this is where, yeah, there's some math. There we go. Yep. That's actually peak funny. Phil Asmo Linux would be based on Pantera OS, which is based on Gen 2. Okay, why not Fun2? FreeBSD. Fun2 is supposed to be the fun version of FreeBSD, of Gen 2, I mean. All right. Before we do, thank you for everyone joining. I'm just going to post that I'm going live. We're going to read this. So there is, not to promote it use it at your own discretion. There is something called Monster.land. It is a Nostr client. If you truly care about free and open source, free speech platform that actually cares about you being decentralized, where you can run your own relay very easily, go check out Nostr. But they have one built on top of Monero. See you later, Billy. Appreciate you. They have one built on Monero. It's very new, so take it with a grain of salt, take it with caution. I would tell people to use like a VPN or something when you're using Nostr anyways, because these relays have a lot of power, and to run your own relay. Most importantly, if you, again, care about privacy, and if you care about having a true voice in a free society on a free platform, Nostr is probably the best option you can have. It's pretty cool, actually. I'm testing it out and kind of checking it out. Just food for thought. When people like sit there and go onto like Twitter and all these other shitholes that talk about free speech, whether you agree with it or not, you essentially don't really have a choice, because it is their platform. Nostr, you have a lot more control. I mean, you even have more control on Mastodon if you run the server, and you have technically more control over on Blue Sky, because it's somewhat of a protocol, but there are people behind it, and there are still big companies behind it that are funding it with their venture capital. Nostr, no one really owns it. It's a protocol. And this is the difference between platforms and protocols. Protocols protect the user and the content and the media. Platforms protect the people that run the platform. So just keep that in mind. Now, with that rant over, and kind of the cool thing about Nostr in general is it allows you to have some form of no algorithm, like it's algorithm-less. You choose who you follow, and you don't have to endlessly doom scroll. So it's probably better for your mental health to get on a platform that cares slightly more, I guess, not about you, but just not the venture capital funds algorithm. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all platforms care about, is getting massive amount of users taking that money and then selling it to advertisers so they can make their money back, or premium subscriptions. But I've always said that Nostr has a Bitcoin maxi problem because there's tons of Bitcoin maxis on there. I'm not really a fan of, because it's literally just a cesspool of people that are like Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. It needs Monero representation, which it now has reached, which is a good thing. And we fundamentally now have an even better spot to spread and look at the positives of Monero in perspective, have some critical thinking, not really be surrounded by a bunch of Bitcoin circle jerks. Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin Nostr was maybe the last good thing that Bitcoin did in terms of a technology standpoint. Monero, on a technology standpoint, is all that matters. It allows me to have private transactions, and it allows me to have private money, monetary value, however you want to look at it. The difference is, if I exchange my Monero back to fiat, I achieved nothing. The point of Monero is I'm supposed to use it to buy stuff that bring me either a form of joy or a utility or a product. You know, Bitcoin maxis just wanted to do tax evasion and spend their money, even though it's publicly audible, like very audible, spend their money not really on products. They just want to buy it and then flip it when it goes, tits up. So always remember that. Bitcoin maxis just care about the price and making their bags and then changing it back to fiat, which does nothing, while Monero cares about utility and it's ultimately trying to give you financial privacy and independence. The original intentions have been of Bitcoin, but I think it's been compromised, and now it's just a giant honeypot. Now that my rant is done, we will continue. Chapter 6, Monero Ring Confidential Transactions, Ring CT. Alice uses an mSlag signature to sign the ring where she knows the private keys KO pi, KO pi, KO pi J. Or is that a 0? That's a 0. K0 pi J, K0 pi J, and ZJ. For the commitment to 0, CA pi J, CA pi J with an apostrophe. Since no key image is needed for the commitments to 0, there is consequently no corresponding key image component in the signature's construction. Each input in the transaction is signed individually using rings like RJ, as defined above, thereby obscuring the real outputs being spent. Amongst other unspent outputs, since part of each ring includes a commitment to 0, the pseudo output commitments used must contain an amount equal to the real input being spent. This ties input amounts to the proof that amounts balance, without compromising which ring members is the real input. The message M signed by each input is essentially a hash of all transaction dates except for the mSlag signatures. This ensures the transactions are tamper-proof from the perspective of both transaction authors and verifiers. Only one message is produced, and each input mSlag signs it. One-time private key K0 is the essence of Monero's transaction model. Signing M with K0 proves that you are the owner of the amount of the commitment to CA. Verifiers can be confident that the transaction authors are spending their own funds without even knowing which funds are being spent, how much is being spent, or what other funds might own. This is super, important. The thing is if I go into, a liquor store and I hand them $100 and the camera has my name above my head and it scans the banknote and puts it into a database, and then the clerk behind it is looked at my ID, looked at the 100, and then wrote in his book with my ID and the serial number of the 100, I essentially have taken away the privacy. But that's not how, luckily, society works. I walk in, I hand him $100. He looks at my ID, maybe because I'm buying a substance that requires an age verification, and he's like, "Cool, thanks. Here's the the liquor or the cigarettes or whatever," and then I move on my way. But after he takes the 100, gives me my change, puts in there, he doesn't know who that 100 belonged to because he's probably getting 10, 15, 20 hundreds throughout the day. And they're not going to be like, oh yeah, that 100 that one person handed me. This is why maybe small denominations are slightly better, because you could theoretically look at it. It was like no one's going to glance twice at, like, a $20 bill. They're just like, they're going to have tens of hundreds of $20 bills, and vice versa. So it's kind of like having, like, if my brain is locked in and thinking about this in hindsight, I'm assuming it's kind of like having 10 people coming at once, all hand you a $1 bill for like a candy bar or something, and you take the candy bar and you split up the candy bar and you take it and you go home, but no one knows like whose bill was who, which one was the real bill, and the person with the candy bar just eats the candy. Like nobody knows who handed which bill, and then you split it up, and then you reconstruct it back into one person, however you want to bring the analogy. But it's like multiple people spending $1 all at once on one thing, and then being like, where did the dollar come from? Whose dollar's who? It's not possible in current 2025. Avoid double spending. But, food for thought. An MSLAG signature, section 3.5, contains images KJ of a private key K pi J. An important property for any cryptocurrency signature scheme is that it should be unforgeable with non-negligible probability. Non-negligible probability. Therefore, to all practical effects, we can assume a signature's key image must have been deterministically produced from a legitimate private key. The network only needs to verify the key images included with MSLAG signatures corresponding to the inputs and calculated as KOJ equals KOJ HP KOJ have not appeared before in other transactions. If they have, then we can assure we are witnessing an attempt to respend an output. C A pi J K O pi J. Building and verifying the signatures excludes the terms RI2HP, CIJ, CA pi J plus CIJKA, JKJKLLL. The advantage of signing inputs individually is that the set of real inputs and commitments to zero need to not be placed at the same index pi as they would be in the aggregated case. This means even if one input's origin becomes identifiable, the other input's origins would not. The old transaction type RCT type full used aggregated ring signatures, combining all the rings into one, and as we understand it, it was depreciated for that reason. The actual message is M equals H TX underscore prefix HSS H range proofs where TX prefix equals transaction era version, i.e. ring CT equals 2, inputs ring member key offset key images, outputs SS transaction types RCT bold proofs, transaction fees, pseudo output commitments and inputs elliptic curve elliptic curve DH info encrypted amounts and output commitments. See Apex A regarding this terminology. Verifies almost check the key image is a member of the generator subgroup in section 3.4. Space requirements. Okay, sorry, I was reading something unrelated. Okay, so space requirements: ML SAG signature inputs. From section 3.5, we recall that ML SAG signature in the context would be expressed as OJM, string of text, and then with a K. As a legacy of CryptoNote, the values of KOJ are not referred as a part of the signatures, but rather as images of the private keys. These keys are normally stored separately in the transaction structure as they're used to detect double spending attacks. With this in mind, and assuming the point and point compression, section 2.4.2, since each ring RJ contains two keys, an input signature will require 2v plus 1 plus 1 dot 32 bytes. On top of that, the keys, images, and the pseudo output commits leave a total of 32 bytes per input. To this value, we would need additional space to store the ring members offset in the blockchain. These offsets are used by verifiers to find each ML SAG signature's ring members, output keys, and commitments in the blockchain, and are stored as valuable length integers. Hence, we cannot exactly quantify the space needed. Verifying all of an RCTT type bulletproof 2 transaction, ML SAGs includes the computation of CIJ, CA and then some string. And verifying key images are in the G subgroup with LK with a squirrely breaks around it, with a squirrely looking bracket above it. Question mark equals 0. Range proofs, outputs, and aggregated bulletproof range proof will require 32 total bytes. C66 or 24 for an explanation of Monero's variant data types. It is an integer type that uses up to 9 bytes and stores up to 63 bits of information. Imagine the blockchain contains a long list of transaction outputs. We report these indices of outputs we want to use in rings. Now, bigger indexes require more storage space. We just need the absolute position of one index from each ring and then relative positions the other ring members indicates, for example, with real indices 7, 11, 15, 20. We just need to report 7, 4, 4, 5. Verifiers can compute the last index with 7, 4, 4, 5 equals 20. Ring members are organized in an ascending order of the blockchain index within rings. A transaction with 10 inputs using rings with 11 total members will need 2 plus 3, 32. 10 equals 8,000 bytes for its inputs, which is around 110 to 333 bytes for the offset. There are 110 ring members. Chapter 6, Monero Ring Confidential Transactions, Ring CT. Concept summary, Monero transactions. To summarize this chapter and the previous two chapters, we present the main content of a transaction organization. For conceptual clarity, a real example can be found at Apex A. Type 0 is ring CT type null for miners. 4 is ring CT type bulletproof 2. Inputs for each input, JE1M, spent by the transaction author, Ring member offsets is a list of offsets indicating where the verifiers can find inputs, JS's ring members, in the blockchain, including the real input, ML-SAG signature, a term, C1 and RI1, RI2 for IE plus 1, V plus 1. Key images, the key image for input, pseudo output commitment, CAJ for input J, outputs for each output, to address subaddress, one-time address, output commitment, encoded amount, so output owners can compute blank for output and amount, range proof, and an aggregated bulletproof for all those output amounts. Transaction fee communicated in clear text multiplied by 10 12, to the power of 12, i.e. atomic units, see section 731. So a fee of 1 would be recorded as a long number. Extra includes the transaction public key, RG, or if at least one output directed to a subaddress, RTKI, for each subaddress output and output T, and RIG, each normal address output T, and maybe encoded payment ID should be at most 1 per transaction. Extras included. So if he blah blah blah. One final input, one output example transaction sounds like this. My transaction uses transactions public key RG. I will spend one of the outputs in set X. Note that it has a hidden amount, AX committed to the CX. The output being spent is owned by me. I made a MS lag signature on a one-time address in X, and hasn't been spent before. It's a key image K and has not yet appeared in the blockchain. I will give it a pseudo output commitment CX. I will make one output Y, which may be spent by the one-time address KY. It has a hidden amount. Any commitment to the CY encrypted for the recipient and proven in range with a bulletproof style range proof. My transaction includes a transaction fee. F, please note that CXCYCS equals 0 and that I have assigned the commitment to 0. C apostrophe X CX equals C equals ZG, which means that input amount equals to the output amount. My ML-SAG signed all transaction data, and observers can be assured it hasn't been tampered with. No information stored in the extra field is verified, though. It is signed by an input ML-SAG, so no tampering is possible, except with negligible probability. The field has no limit on how much data it can store, so as long as the maximum transactions wait in response. storage requirements. For RCT type bulletproof 2, we need 32 bytes of storage, and the aggregated bulletproof range proofs needs 32 bytes of storage. Input images, M, 32 bytes. One-time output addresses, P, 32 bytes. Output commitments, P, 32 bytes. Encoded output amounts, 8 bytes. Transaction public key, 32 bytes normally, P times 32 bytes if sending at least one subaddress. Payment ID, 8 bytes for an integrated address. This should be no more than 1 per TX. Transaction fees stored as a valuable length of integer, so 9 bytes. Input offset stored as a variable length integers, so 9 bytes per offset for MU1 ring members. Unlock time stored as a variable length integers, so 9 bytes. Extra tags, each piece of data in the extra field of the transaction beginnings when 1 byte tag, and some pieces also have 1 byte length. Data. The amount of transaction content is limited by a maximum so-called transaction weight. Before bulletproofs, we added a protocol in version 8, and indeed currently when transactions have only two outputs, the transaction weight and size in bytes were equivalent. The maximum weight is 0.5300 kilobytes. CryptoNote, Coinbase, Blob reserved Cs, where Blob reserved 600 bytes, is intended to leave room for the miner transaction with the blocks. Before version 8, the 300 kilobytes v5, we elaborated on this topic in section 732. Any transactions authors can lock its outputs, rendering them unspendable until a specific block height where it may be spent, or until Unix timestamp at which time its output may be included in the block transactions. Ring member, and he only has the option to lock all outputs to the same block height. It is not clear if this offers any meaningful utility to transaction authors, perhaps smart contracts. Minor transactions have mandatory 60 block lock time. As a protocol version 12, normal outputs can't be spent until after the default spendable age, 10 blocks, which is functionally equivalent to a mandatory minimum 10 blocks lock time. If a transaction is published in the 10th block with an unlocked time of 25, it may be spent in the 25th block or later. Unlocked time is probably the least used of all transaction features for normal transactions. Wow, wasting money even in the block space. Okay. Cool. Interesting. Interesting. Cool. Cool. Interesting. All right. Mainly ranting and stuff. The Internet Age is brought to you New Dimension. Chapter 7. How many more chapters do we have? Ooh, chapter 7 looks cool. Tomorrow we will do a longer and more in-depth stream on Monero, and it's kind of based option. So chapter 7 looks like it will be interesting. I am ready to read it. I will see you guys in the next video.